Many thanks for staying with us here on Newsdesk. Let's now talk about some other issues now. And scores have been rendered homeless after more than 10 hours of torrential rains in the northern region. Joining us, Hashmi Mohammed has been touring some of the affected areas and is joining me now on phone with more on how bad the situation in the northern region is this morning. Hashmi, good morning. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsdesk. Can you tell us really which areas you've been to and the extent of damage?
Well, I've been to Yapala, and I've also been to Gumani, Swanayule, Kanarga, and Vitin. These are communities in the Tamale metropolis and Sanargu district, respectively.
So what's the situation there now? We are seeing some pretty terrible images there. There's a video of a whole farmland that appears to have been taken over by floods. Can you tell us whether this is representative across board? Well,
in areas such as Yapala, which is the rural part of the Tamale metropolis, flood water has taken over farmlands of many of the residents there, and this rain started on Saturday at 9 p.m. and ended on Sunday at 8 p.m. So it has been more than 17 hours of consistent rains, and the residents are saying that and not until the National Disaster Management Organization comes to them, they wouldn't know what to do next. But aside from the rural parts of the Tamale metropolis, if you are in the metropolis, the city center itself, in some communities too, a lot of houses, homes have been flooded, and they've lost a lot of their belongings, their clothing, their foodstuffs, and then their electrical appliances.
Has there been any help to these people who reside in these communities you speak of?
No help. As at the time of filing the report last night, NADMO officials were yet to visit this displaced person. But what we are also learning is that one person is reportedly missing when trying to cross a bridge to his community. Rescue efforts have been underway to search for this missing person.
So the person is feared drowned?
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Hashmi, many thanks for that update. And that's Hashmi Mohammed bringing us more from the northern regional part of Ghana, particularly Tamale and its environs, where we are told that quite a number of farmlands and a number of people there have been displaced. We'll bring you some more on that, but closely related to that, you are told that the Kasi Dam at Sinesi in the Busa North District of the Upper East region has dried up after a portion of its bank collapsed following the recent downpour that led to serious floods in the area. One other dam at Balansa is on the verge of collapse. Also, residents, we are told, are counting their losses days after the floods, even as more rains continue to pour in.
The Kasa Dam is a major source of water for farming and for animals to drink. The dam serves Senesi and other communities in the Kasa town, but has now dried up after its banks collapsed following a downpour that started last Wednesday dawn. The remaining water continues to travel out of the dam through the collapsed portion of its bank into open community lands, with residents looking on helplessly. Another dam at Balansa community is on the verge of collapse as its bank is gradually giving way to the impact of the flood waters. Assemblyman for the area says if the dams are not repaired in time, it would affect dry season farming in the area. Member of Parliament for the area, James Agaga, together with the Upper East Regional Minister, Albert Abongo, the DCE for Bilsa North and NADMO officials toured the affected areas. The tour revealed that several communities remain cut off from the rest of Bilsa North District, and many trunk roads have also been destroyed. District Chief Executive for Bilsa North, Bonaventure Adangabi, said the destruction caused by the floods was enormous.
About 52 acres of rice has been washed away, and most of our farmers have been affected as a result. As of now, because this road is destroyed. Teachers cannot cross to the other side. Children too cannot cross to school.
Member of Parliament for Busa North and Deputy Interior Minister James Agaga told journalists the government would take interim measures to reduce the impact of the floods.
We have to immediately, as a temporary measure, fill in some of the holes that have been created here to make the road passable. I know in the wet season we can't do much. We'll just do some intervention to make the roads passable.
Upper East Regional Minister Albert Abungu donated some items, including mattresses, foodstuff and mosquito nets to the Busa North District Assembly for our distribution to the flood victims.
Starting 95. We need what they will do to make us free every year. Not that you will come and give you maybe a mosquito net or a mat or something like this. It will help you.
Meanwhile, residents of Sandema, the Busa North District capital, are still counting their losses days after the floods. Some of them spoke to John.
Well, away from that now, let's talk about things that are happening in the capital Accra today, particularly let's talk about Parliament, things that are happening in Parliament. And Finance Minister Setepe is later this morning expected to present a supplementary budget to Parliament that is expected to give the strongest indication yet of government's true commitment not to overspend in an election year. Ghana's existing credit facility with the International Monetary Fund will be in sharp focus as the Finance Minister lays out his spending plan. The very last budget to be presented by the John Mahama-led administration before the general elections. Well, we do have our team in Parliament. A team of reporters are there currently as we speak. We'll be bringing you live visuals from things that are happening in Parliament now. But let's first speak to George Raphael, who is also, by the way, in Parliament. And he's been speaking to the Finance Minister on a number of issues, even before he makes his presentation. Let's get more now from George Raphael, like I said, of our business desk, who's standing by with some more. George, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Can you tell us really what you've gathered so far in your early interaction with the Finance Minister?
Well, thank you. I bet you don't expect the Minister to give me any details before he presents the document.
Indeed.
That was just a little informal interaction with him, and that's what I can tell. But it wasn't anything where he was giving me details of what he's going to present. So what we've picked up is that, of course, growth will be revised, and the projection now is 4.1%, and that's what the Finance Minister is looking at reviewing. Most of the estimates of the economic targets that were set out in the budget are going to be reviewed, revenue as well and expenditure. Now, quickly, let me go through what is happening right now. The members have started trickling in for the presentation. The minister has already been here a long time ago with his team. They're in the other chamber that leads to the main chamber itself. Now, if you run through the order for the day, you have prayers, you have correction of votes and proceedings. There'll be some statements. There'll be presentation of papers, and then presentation of the first reading of bills, and then we'll have the supplementary estimates for 2016. So that's about the fifth item on the order paper for this morning. So it looks like it might take a while before the minister actually come in and make that presentation to Parliament.
I'm sure quite a number of people, speaking of stakeholders, might have already showed up at Parliament. What have they also been saying as far as expectations are concerned?
Well, if you talk about expectations, I have with me here Honorable Kuku Kwatin. He's a member of Parliament, and maybe I will put to him what are his expectations. Honorable, good morning. And first, let me ask you, what are your expectations as the minister gets set to present this mid-year review and supplementary budget?
Well, my expectations are that government would secure in the budget, in the supplementary budget, a financing arrangement for the procurement of gas and crude oil to power our generators, so that the doom saw will go down or will be removed completely. We were promised regular supply of power in the last budget statement, but that has not happened because government has been unable to procure fuel for our generators. I want to see a secured financing arrangement in the supplementary budget for the purpose. 2, I also want to see how government intends to cut back on the borrowing from the domestic bank so that the private sector will be able to borrow domestically at more reasonable interest rates. This is the only way we can help businesses to borrow, expand, and create jobs for the unemployed. So I expect to see that. And then I would also want to see how government intends to cut the waste so that government expenditure will be reined in, and then we can make savings for investment in the failing sectors of the economy.
Still quite an interesting year. Now, we are in election year. Government has talked about subsidies. It has talked about paying nurses, allowances. The Legislative Commission is asking for more budget. Revenue numbers are not looking that good. Some will say they're quite interesting. How should government handle this?
Government should look first at the Auditor General's report. Government should look at its department and see how internally generated funds for the various government entities are being wasted. I think government can make a lot of savings from there. Government can make a lot of savings from wastage within central government itself, the office of the presidency. If government would be committed to cutting waste, I'm confident that enough resources will be freed for the purposes that you mentioned.
So, that was the Member of Parliament, Honorable, speaking as and sharing his views on what he actually makes of the issue there. So, I don't know whether you have any other question again, but you
that'll be all for now. I'm just gearing up to see really what happens in Parliament today, particularly from the opposition MPP.
But next time, don't expect the minister to give you details on the budget before he presents it.
Right. Okay. George, but many thanks for that update. We'll be coming back to you in a short while for some more as and when we do have that information available. But that's George Rafi of Joy Business, and he's currently in Parliament with a host of other reporters we've deployed to the legislative arm of government, and we'll be bringing you the very latest as far as this very issue is concerned. There'll be a live transmission here on Newsdesk. But away from that now, and close to 400 women still die in Ghana in every 100,000 live births. One of government's solutions to this has been to build several community health posts, also called CHIPS compounds, especially in rural communities to assist the country's poorest people. But with the human resource gap and the growing number of women who need maternal health services, these facilities are doing very little to encourage would-be mothers to access the life-saving healthcare services they need. In the second of a series on poverty and inequalities in Ghana, Joy Mrs. Justice Bedo reports from the Upper West regional town of Dodoma on why babies are still dying at birth even though a CHIPS compound is just 6 kilometers away.
The joy of motherhood. A 45-year-old woman cuddling her twin sons. But the story of how these children were born isn't quite as nice. Yibinena had to be carried onto a motorbike hoping to make a 15-kilometer journey to the district hospital in Wichau, the capital of the Wa West district, to deliver. This was more than 10 hours after she had gone into labor. 5 kilometers into the journey, her first baby came out while she was still on the motorbike. The bike carried her, ran out of fuel, and she had to be carried back home to deliver the second.
When I was pregnant, I suffered. I really suffered. I have given birth 8 times before my twins. Immediately after the first month in my pregnancy, I started falling sick. My chest, I was anemic, and the nearest clinic is 6 kilometers from here. And when I went there, they gave me only paracetamol. I had to go to the district capital. It is 15 kilometers away. When I got there, I couldn't walk. I didn't have money. My husband didn't have money. We only get money from burning charcoal, and because I was pregnant, I stopped the charcoal work. I didn't have money for transport.
Yibinena lives in Dodoma, a small community in the Wa West district of the Upper West region. Her village has no health facility, no electricity, and no road connecting it to the next village with a health post. Like many women in Dodoma, Yebinena has already lost 4 children in previous pregnancies and now is scared of giving birth again. This is Pinsua. She has an even terrible story than Yebinena, bleeding 4 straight days in her last pregnancy. When she finally reached the closest CHIPS compound, she was told she had lost the baby.
There's a CHIPS compound 6 kilometers away, but when we go there, there are no nurses there. So we walk there and find that the facility is empty. So that is why we go to the district hospital. Even if you send a patient there, you won't find anybody there. It's an empty facility.
About 300 deaths are still recorded in every 100,000 live births in Ghana, despite the huge efforts made at reducing maternal mortality. This region is one of the leading casualties. This is the Talawana CHIPS compound. It's located about 6 miles away from the Dodoma community. It's supposed to be the first point of call for pregnant women in need of urgent health care. Government has recently built hundreds of such structures across many remote communities in Ghana. The problem, though, is that there are usually not enough health workers to work in them. And in instances where there are, they usually do not have the facilities or even the medicines to work with.
If I had given birth, it definitely would have been a human being, so I would have been happy to have him. But he died, so there's nothing I can do.
As much of the problems that cause these avoidable deaths persist, the women of Dodoma, like many expectant mothers across Ghana, would continue to live in fear of giving birth again. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Dodoma, Upper West Region.